Thank you very much, Quick Shot. And if you don't see it anymore, we can watch it all you want tonight over and over and over. But nonetheless, I digress. On to this matchup, guys. We saw what was happening. We were kind of a bit surprised by Mineski's bottom lane. Doublelift, you were speaking a few things during that game.
Yeah, EXO and TG did really well against Darien and Voidal. I felt like their game impact was surprisingly high for being on a losing team, and they played pretty consistently throughout the tournament. I feel like the first few games they were like really shaken up, but obviously Mineski outclassed, but their bot lane seems okay.
Yeah, it's kind of been our read going into the tournament as well, and as the casters pointed out on the desk as well, it wasn't enough to carry the top lane. He went really behind in minion kills, and the other thing that really stood out to me from Gambit as well was their objective control. I remember looking at the game at one point, and it was like 4-3 in kill score, and Mineski's winning in kills, but they're down like 8,000 gold because turrets and dragons and everything else are going Gambit's way.
That was partly just because of the farm as well. I mean, Gambit got first blooded and still was ahead in gold at one point because they just individually, like, their mechanics are just way more top notch.
Yeah, you could really tell that they were overmatched. But I do give some props to Mineski for their team composition. I like Nidalee as a split pusher with Blade of the Ruin King or with Trinity Force right now. We may see that pick coming in a little bit later, and with their 3-1-1 that they could have had with a solid Zed. Unfortunately, he also fell behind pretty far in farm. But I think the idea from Mineski was pretty solid.
And how do you guys feel with the variety of champions coming out here? I believe it's 47 champions out of the total we have played. 2 of them being in the last game we just saw. We saw an Ashe and a Nidalee here. Teams trying to spice things up.
Yeah, I've always been interested to see like pro player champion pools because I think that it's not so much like what champions are viable because like almost every champion can be used. It's just the breadth of somebody's champion pool. So like let's just say, for example, an AD player generally would specialize in like 3 or 4 ADs, but in actuality, like every AD carry is viable in a certain situation. It's really just depends on the player. Like how many champions can they master before Worlds comes up?
And how long, Kreppel, we'll throw this to you. How long does it take, or even it might be different for each person, to feel comfortable at that level of play on a new champion?
Depends whether the champion is something similar. Say you can pretty much class range support in the same play style.
Okay.
For example, also somebody that plays a lot of Zyra might be able to pick up Sona, but then again, if you're picking up Sona, you probably would have done that first. Probably. But yeah, there's
it's been around a bit longer.
Quite a few niche champions, though, that I would really like to see. As a support myself, I used to love playing Alistar in Season 2 a lot, and he's fallen out of favor a lot compared to the lead. Maybe Leona is the only like melee support you can see. Like Taric doesn't even exist anymore, it seems. Really sad Madlife isn't here because he would have busted out the Alistar and wrecked some face.
Hasn't Madlife gotten flack for only being able to play like Sona Thresh and like maybe Lulu though?
And Blitzcrank.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and
you can play Lulu, it's just not optimal to teams. And he was 1-1 during the summer season on Alistar, and he had a very impressive game against the KT Bullets, but it is a shaky and a very risky pick. It's an all-in pick, and if you can make the plays, you look like a god, but if you can't, you look pretty foolish.
Yeah, and also to add on to some of these points as well, a lot of the champion picks end up being strategic level things where you want to run things that synergize well with your composition. I know you've talked a little bit about like if you show Lulu or Nami really early, it's like, oh, we're clearly going to go in on you. We're looking to get some picks off there. If I'm getting the champions right, actually, in your analysis, but so some champions will only come in when your team wants to run a certain strategy, and if they're not running that set of strategies for whatever reason, you won't see those champions come in either.
Now let's talk a little bit about we see Mineski, they're going 0-5, and they weren't really a team that people could look at, people could see information behind their gameplay. How is it, and what do you focus on, really, for Kreppel and Doublelift here? Coming into a game, what teams do you choose to focus on? The ones that give you the most problem, or do you try to hit every team so you can play your best in every game?
I think for a group stage setting, it's not so much studying your teams as much as like identifying what your strengths and weaknesses are and trying to be as solid and consistent as possible. I feel like the reason that Gambit and Fnatic is on top of their group is because they play their own way. They don't play to the enemy team. They have their style. They're really good at their style, and that's how they win.
A basic amount of research is needed. You never want to be caught off guard. You need to know if a team is a team fighters team or a split pushing team. You would definitely go, if you're looking to advance from the group, you'll start at the top and try and take games off your top competitors. You can never underestimate an enemy, but it's clear that Mineski is outmatched. They have poor team synergy and teamwork at times, but just do your best looking up as many games as you can, but that's for the coaches and the analysts.
Gentlemen, any final thoughts?
Yeah, as well, even if you have your own sort of style, if you're like, we're Fnatic, we do this every single time, you can always put research into level 1s and very early game setup. So we've talked a lot now about the 3v1 dives and the Korean teams not knowing about that, but that's a very simple change. You back up at 3 minutes, and that doesn't have to change your play style. Or secondarily to that, level 1s, oh, they always go in this way or they always ward this spot. I've seen teams in NA will camp a very awkward brush because they expect the other team to run right by them and set up a trap, and that's worked for teams like Curse. They know it's going to happen, and that level of research can get you some advantages.
Monty? No?
Well,
I saw you nodding.
Just in terms of Mineski,
Right.
though, they can't be discounted because if they try some more unorthodox strats and they can catch somebody off guard,
Sure.
they could really be a spoiler in this group. I mean,
Right
they're
on.
very dangerous with how close everyone else is.
I just feel like they lack the individual level of play to really pull off that spoiler.
Actually, I think
Real
Mineski
quick, though,
can
bud.
potentially spoil a game if they play off their bot lane. I think if they focus all the resources into getting their bot lane ahead and then their side lanes, their solo laners just don't play aggressive and just try to keep even, just split the lane even, they can potentially spoil someone's day.
All right, guys, and with that, moving on a little bit, let's take a look at the Group B standings after our 3 games so far. Fnatic is currently sitting on top of the group at 4-1. Then it's Gambit in second, also with 4 wins, but 2 of those losses. In third place, it's Ozone and with Vulcan in 4th place, and Mineski still in 5th. Now, gentlemen, we have...